Alrighty, new year, new anime. What to watch? Well, Mugen Train's a good bet, Mob Psycho 103 maybe, Nisemonogatari, Konosuba, let's see, there's a ton of sequels, Oreimo, Food Wars, School Rumble, Beastars, Bleach, oh, and The Devil's a Part-Timer. That should be enough for this month, and I might not even get through it all. I'm just f***ing with you. I watched Chainsaw Man. Here's my thoughts. So after all this time and teasing, what are my thoughts on Chainsaw Man? I liked it, but I also have my issues that I'll explain later. But I don't think it's that bad that a petition needed to be started for it. To start, the animations are out of this world, having some of the nicest looking scenes that I've seen in the field. I also thought that the story was pretty good. The goal of beating the mysterious superpowered gun devil is doing its job, and the music in the show is pretty good, if not amazing. Then there are other characters, which I feel is something you're either into or you're not. Denji is so close to being a good character in my eyes, but his idea of a good life turns from an interesting idea to him just wanting to get laid. Moving to the other kind of main protagonist is Power, a half-devil type I believe they describe her as, but she is just as uninteresting, and has an issue I face with the series where they don't explain character motivations or backstories at all. As Denji is the main protagonist, his story gets told, as well as Aki, who I honestly barely remember. But the main issue comes with Himeno, who, for sharing a lot of the spotlight during the season, never gets her backstory explained before something that spoilers happens, and means we'll never get to the hero motivations and thoughts on becoming a devil hunter. To finish up, I don't think Chainsaw Man's a bad show, nor do I think any of the problems are unfixable. I can see this will end up a long series, so all that needs to be done is improve on the flaws and concepts, and hopefully a perfect show will arise. I do think that too much hype was built around it, but I also think anything somewhat big might face a similar issue building too much hype around a show. I rate the show at an 8 out of 10 for a solid foundation, but just a show that needs some polish. So hit game Cyberpunk got an anime? Sure, I don't know, on one hand it's visually stunning, though on the other I don't really think it needed to exist. David is one of the least likable protagonists I've seen from any series. The only worst protagonist that comes to mind is Denji. Speaking of story, it sees newly lonely and generally hated David join a gang to fix up his debts. Following this, he gets caught up in gang life. I will say I enjoyed the gang's cast, which changed from when David initially joins to the end of the season. I don't get his reason for sticking it out though. Maybe it's for those biddies, but the girl he's after isn't like the leader or anything, so why couldn't they just run away? I don't know, much like Chainsaw Man, the protagonist was just someone whose ideals just didn't resonate with me. Maybe it has something to do with my hatred for realism, but then again, I don't get how a show about half humans, half mechs would count, but step-sibling relationships wouldn't. To preface, I see a good show here, and trying new things is always good, though I think the show missed the mark when it came to pleasing me specifically, and isn't a show I would see myself watching a second season of, though to be fair, I don't think a second season will happen, considering the ending. The episode count is low, even for anime standards at 10 episodes. This could also be part of the displeasure for me, having no time to flesh out the plot, with the most similar comparison that I can think of that I've watched being Code Geass, which had a whole 52 episodes to flesh out its cast. Anyways, I didn't like it, but it's still good. I would personally rate Cyberpunk Edgerunners out of 5, but I can see why it got an 8.6 on my anime list. For this section of the Demon Slayer story, they decide to tell it through both a 7-part episodic journey and a 2-hour movie, which from what I've heard, they are for all intents and purposes basically the same, so I chose to just watch the movie. Anyway, the movie covers volumes 7 and 8 from the manga, where Tanjiro and his friends meet up with Kyojo Rengoku, finding the mysteries of the Mugen train. As always from the series, the animation is top tier. My main issue with the movie is that of Kyojo's character portrayal in the movie itself. I think his more playful side is shown off well, but a slightly more serious tone in some of the settings I believe would have made him a stronger character. Not that I think that will be an issue going forward, as other Hashira will take the spotlight. I know I didn't talk insanely positive about the movie, but in that case I would just be repeating what I had said on the first season. To finish up, I think Demon Slayer did well for its first movie. I look forward to watching the second season, but for Mugen Train, it gets an 8 out of 10. Wow, You know, I'm writing this right after I finished the last episode, but this season is far better than the first two. It has amazing animations and fight scenes shown in the other season, but season 3's story takes it to a whole nother level. Mob this time has two main plots with another small plot put in the middle. The first of the two revolves around Dimple's greed and how Mob has to put him in his place, also showing what Dimple wanted was friendship all along. Kinda cliche I know, but it's still done well enough. But the second plot of Mob fighting himself was one of the best few episodes of anime I've seen. Everything was done so perfectly, including the conclusion, which uses the classic time skip, but it's done as a 6-month time skip, rather than an all grown up in the future like you see sometimes. I think one of the main reasons I like the series so much was Mob himself and how relatable he can be despite basically being a superhuman. Mob keeps his talents close, and underestimating himself is something I can relate to. It's sad to see that the series has reached the end of its source material, meaning I doubt we see a Mob Psycho 104, but I'm also glad it didn't overstay its welcome, so seeing it on such a high note makes me happy that the series got what it deserved. As for my score, I sat on it for a few days, so I thought about it and I think it deserves a 9 out of 10. Nisemonogatari, the continuation of the Monogatari series and direct sequel of Bakemonogatari, the story this time follows Koyomi's sisters, with about half the season focused on each one with new villain Kaiki. The art style and pretty much everything besides the story are pretty much the same, besides the hair length of the majority of the female cast, with Senju Kihara and Hanekawa cutting their hair, Karen, Koyomi's sister, doing it in the show, Kumbo growing her hair out, and Sengoku wearing her hair differently. Other than that weird anomaly, Shinobu, the previously silent vampire, shows she can in fact talk and has an affection for donuts, as always. One thing that bums me out, however, is the ending. They just give up and say, oh well, we'll let this one go, which is weirdly out of character for the series. Though it does make up for it in the quality of the music used in the openings and endings, which I didn't expect but totally should have considering Renai circulation in the earlier seasons. Anyway, that's kind of unrelated. One last point, which I assure you is very important, is that of the toothbrush scene, which I would try to replicate, but do I sound like I have a girlfriend? Thought so. Anyway, this series gets a 9 out of 10. Yep, this is definitely where talk of the series comes from. Oreimo Season 2 has a plot I can only describe as unique, where it basically turns into a reality TV show with Kyosuke choosing which child he wants to date. To be fair on Oreimo, I like the second season a lot, with the season being left on a cliffhanger to be mostly finished in the OVA. Which this time the OVA is an extension to the story which gets f***ing weird. I think it's best seen to be believed, but I'm not sure it should be seen. I think the character development in this season's done way better than the first, with Ayase and Kuroneko having drastic character changes. However, Kurino is way weaker as a character, almost becoming a side character in a show which refers to her in the title. On top of this, a lot of the side characters were cut in favour of these bigger character arcs, with the parents off of memory only getting a scene of proper screen time. As a sequel, naturally, I don't have tons to say about the stuff I already talked about when reviewing the first. However, I think I should give a little reasoning as to why I watched Oreimo in the first place. I like a lot of romance stories, realistic or not, and I find the forbidden love genre is something I find fascinating and is forever something I've been interested in since starting watching the medium. Anime allows for creative freedom you can't really find with any English cartoon, and given that freedom, I like to see what characters are created. It creates some interesting scenarios and are fun to watch. Anyways, I think this is the last of the well-known animes of this type, at least that I know of, and I'm glad to be done with this chapter of my life. Damn it! Anyway, Oreimo gets an 8 out of 10. Konosuba. Where do I begin? I don't really feel like rating this one, but I will anyway. The uninteresting Kazuma dies and gets reincarnated, taking the practically useless god Aqua with him. On their comedic journey, they meet powerful Megumin, whose powers basically paralyzes her for a short time. And there's also Darkness, who's strong, but can't hit attacks. I don't think anything in the series is bad, I just don't like the jokes, with them all being the "that's not how it works, I just do this and we succeed" kind of jokes. Personally, I prefer the kind of jokes that flow with the plot rather than pause it. Say for example, in the first season of Kaguya-sama Love is War, There is a scene where Kaguya laughs at the word wiener, and as Chika tries to get Miyuki to say it, which if he did would expose Kaguya to be a child. However, if Miyuki finds out what's going on, he may be disgusted and creeped out by Chika's actions, leading to stakes to be added to the simple wiener joke. Which, to expand, the series doesn't have any stakes, which becomes a real issue as the characters just do what they want. There's no building or connection to the characters, which I guess can be fine for a comedy, but when so many of the jokes fall flat, it doesn't make the series bad, just boring. Overall, I didn't hate Konosuba, it was just a 6 out of 10 show though. This month's selection was kinda slim, however I think this month had some undeniable quality, despite my opinions. I can already see some of the series I plan to watch next month, and there could be some gems in what I watch. Anyways, that's all for this video. I appreciate all who make it through to the end. My socials are in the description, as well as the like and subscribe buttons, and also the comments section for all feedback, questions and thoughts. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!